Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
How's it going, everyone? Man, my first playoff game over is not going exactly how I expected. There's already 53 people in here watching, and man, I can't believe it. When the Oilers were up 3-1 with 8 minutes left, I was already writing questions to ask Auddie. I just like the Oilers at the beginning, I probably got a little bit too cocky. I was probably a little bit too confident in their ability. And the LA Kings made me pay. They made all of Edmonton pay. There is a ton of stuff that happened in this game. It was a super eventful game. I do think the Oilers were the better team because they lost the game, but they won where it matters. They won the deserve to win a meter by quite a bit of a margin. So I mean that's at least a positive. But yeah, we're obviously joined by the host of Game Over Calgary.
In
Auddie
case you couldn't
James.
notice,
Exactly.
all the beautiful paraphernalia behind me. I told Rob before we came on here that I was gonna either wear the Kings hats, which I ended up taking off, or I was gonna go grab an Oilers jersey. But I feel like Flames Nation probably would have disowned me if they haven't already for being on this show. So thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to chopping it up, and it's nice not having a horse in the race. I'll tell you that much for free. I watched this game pretty stress-free up until they tied it, and I realized that I had to stay up later to watch this team that I'm not supposed to be covering. But yeah, man, it's going to be good. I'm excited. I'm sure the chat's going to give it to me for the background, and we'll hopefully take away from the pain. But yeah, like you mentioned, man, lots of action, but you can also get in on the action with our friends over at Sports Interaction. Every hit, every shot, every goal from your favorite teams and players, like Leon Draisaitl, who had 2 goals, or who else had 2 goals tonight? We're not gonna go there. We'll stick with Leon. We'll stick with Leon. With competitive odds, the best live in play, and more ways than ever to get into the game. Like Minute Madness. If you haven't tried Minute Madness, lots of fun. I have not won yet, but I do know people who have won on Minute Madness. You can definitely get in on some pretty good odds on Minute Madness. Download the app in Ontario or use the QR code at the bottom of your screen, or head to sportsinteraction.com/STPN to get started. 18 plus, please play responsibly. And as always, if you or anybody you know has any issues with gambling, please be sure to reach out. There are some resources in the show notes, and if you're listening on playback, in the show description. So reach out if you have any concerns there. But yeah, take it away. Let's go through the heartbreak. I told you we're gonna have a nice little therapy session, you and I. I'll do all the listening. I'll do thought invoking questions for you. Whatever you need me for, man. I'm here for you. I know the pain.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, I can't even imagine. Last year I said this to you before the show, but last year I was watching you laughing my ass off as the Oilers were just beaten down on the Flames. I was like, oh, what a goof. I can't even imagine. I had no empathy whatsoever. And all of a sudden, right after I got up to walk over to my computer, my heart was just full of empathy for you from last year. Cause now I can understand and I can grasp what happened to you last year. Man, this game going into it, there was an air of confidence all throughout the market of Edmonton. There was everyone and their dog and their dentist and their mom, and everyone was picking the Oilers to go to the final, right? Some people were saying this is going to be a long series. Some people were saying this is going to be a short series, but Edmonton seemed to be the overwhelming favorite. LA's without Gabe Vilardi. They're obviously without Kevin Fiala. So, and we know they're not in Edmonton. So for game one, for the Kings to win this game, it was even just more critical for them to get a win without those 2 guys in the lineup. This was a must-win game for those. You needed to beat them when they were down. And just to sum up everything in 2 seconds, and yeah, there's a number of like specific instances you could point to. This was the December Oilers coming back out. They won 9 in a row going into the playoffs. They were the hottest team in the NHL since January 11th. They had a better points percentage than Boston. They were the best team in the league. They were dominating everyone. They weren't just dominating San Jose and Anaheim. They beat LA twice in the last 6 games of the year. They beat Colorado, right? They were beating really good opponents. They were playing lockdown defensive hockey, 5 goals against in the last 7 games. This game, they come into so much energy. The roof at Rogers was going to blow up. They were so physical on the Kings. The Kings didn't have an inch of space. In the first period, might have been the most perfect period of hockey I've seen the Oilers play, right? They leave that period up 2-0. I don't think the Kings got one high danger scoring chance that entire period. The Oilers suffocated them everywhere. Again, they beat the Kings at their own game. The Kings' game plan is to win every game 0-0, right? They're going to run that 1-3-1. And what the Oilers did, instead of trying to carry the puck in, they committed to the dump and chase, try and beat that 1-3-1. And it worked. Draisaitl 5-on-5 goal to open the game. And usually in the past, like 12 games, the team who scores first wins in this series. That's all it takes to beat LA, because when they go run and gun, 9 times out of 10, the Oilers can outgun any team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and just obviously tonight they just felt like I believe the Oilers were a better team. I know there's gonna be a ton of Kings fans in the chat that want to let me know how shitty the Oilers are, Kings in 4, Kings in 5, whatever. I still think that, yeah, the Oilers, they lost game 1 last year, they lost game 1 this year. Losing game 1 sucks. It's not, doesn't mean you're defeated by any means. Now, it's just so tough. Losing game 1 hurts way more, I feel like, than losing, a game 3 when it's tied 1-1. I don't know. It just feels, because you're anticipating this game so much. And I'm kind of rambling all over the place, because I am just, my mind was racing 1,000 miles a minute from when I saw Derek Ryan tie the game in overtime, and I jumped up off my couch screaming, woke my entire family, and then to find out it's no goal, and just Kings fans are rejoicing and reading Twitter and all the people dunking. And yeah, there's a number of things, even from the Edmonton perspective, we can nitpick, and I didn't like specific, even from the crowd, there were things that drove me nuts tonight. But yeah, sorry to go all over the place and touch on everything.
This is your show. This is your show. I'm just a passenger.
Yeah.
But yeah, like to kind of hone it all in from like my perspective, watching this game as a neutral observer, no horses in the race. Obviously, you introduced me as the host of Game Over Calgary, and you can see clearly behind me where my affiliations lie. It was, I was texting back and forth with you. I was texting back and forth with Rob, and I watched the remainder of the third period and all of overtime together, and we were, going back and forth. And by the way, shout out producer Rob, who's behind the scenes organizing this lovely stream for everybody. But even like during the third period and into overtime, I was talking to Rob, and I said, man, like this is like the Oilers, they can't lose this game. There's no way they lose this game. Like they came out in the first period, like you talked about, that first period was probably some of the most entertaining hockey that I've watched in the last, and this is not hard to do when you cover the Calgary Flames, but some of the most entertaining hockey that I've watched in the last 6 months, let's say. There has not been a lot of that in Calgary land, but that's exactly, and I put out a tweet, that's exactly the kind of game that I would have expected, like a 7-game series of a Battle of Alberta last year, right? Obviously it did not go that way. But it was fun. It was fun. It was high paced. The Oilers were all over it. Draisaitl looked like he was doing Leon Draisaitl things. McDavid was all over the place, as he is. And I don't get to clamor too much about Connor McDavid on my show for obvious reasons. But like, I want to take a moment to just appreciate from someone who covers a team other than Edmonton, just how goddamn good this guy is, and how much of a treat it is to be able to watch this guy. And, I know my allegiances lie in the sea of red, but it'll be a goddamn sin if in my lifetime I don't get to see that guy lift the Stanley Cup. So I'm in a very roundabout way rooting for Edmonton to do it, just because of the legacy. And it's not often that, someone like that comes around and we get to witness it. So as hockey fans and in general, we just have to appreciate the greatness. Totally. And I know not many fan bases are willing to admit that outside of Edmonton. But to bring it back to the game, yeah, like LA looked flat. They looked like they're like, the deserve to win a meter or the give a crap meter in that case. Like they looked like it was game 83. It wasn't game 1 of the playoffs. It was game 83 for them. And yeah, they looked flat, but it almost seemed like they wrote out they played the long game. Like, if that makes sense, like they kind of like they knew Edmonton was going to come out hot and like a bat out of hell, and they did, and they rode that for a little bit, and then they finally had them where they wanted them, and they ended up coming back, and obviously we know how this game ends, but yeah, it's hard to imagine how the Oilers lost that one. It was
for me the first start of that game, like Kempe scored some nice goals. I'd like Stuart Skinner to make couple more saves, like especially the goal that tied the game. To my eyes, that was a pretty weak goal. It kind of went under the arm, sat behind him there. He didn't really know where the puck was, and Kopitar banged it home. You know, there's just a number of things. I think the first star for the LA Kings, bar none, was Jonas Corposalo, right?
Oh, yeah.
He played phenomenal. And it really sucks because, like, this is the thing. In overtime, Oilers had 11 shots. The Kings had just 3, right? The Oilers were outworking the Kings in overtime. They were doing everything they could. And this is where I think a lot of the frustrations for Oilers fans are going to come in. Obviously, the blown lead is one big frustration, but and I'm not so, and again, and I know you don't like to blame the refs, and I don't like to blame the refs, but I think it's something that we need to talk about because essentially,
I think we wouldn't be doing our jobs if we didn't.
no, exactly. Essentially, after the Oilers get their 5-on-3 in the first period, Bouchard puts the Oilers up 2-0. I see Kings fans all over Twitter, series over, Oilers in 4, game over. They were so down. And after that, the Oilers had the remainder. Essentially, the only other power play the Oilers got was like 30 seconds at the beginning of a period on that makeup call, that RNH high stick to make up after the Iafallo one. And it was 6 unanswered Kings power plays, right? Just one after the other. And in my head, after a while, I'm like, okay, game management. Like, they're going to give the Oilers one power play here. They're going to give the Oilers something. But they didn't. They just kept being power play Kings, power play Kings, power play Kings. And there's a few things I could point to here and there, but it's for the playoffs for this instance, it'd be ticky tack, right? There's, a interference on Hyman in the corner. There was high sticking. There was a few things. There was what is it called? Too many men on the ice penalty that all of Rogers' plays called, but they didn't call, which is fine. The one that really will frustrate Oilers fans is in overtime, right? Warren Foegele, who had a monster game. I thought the Oilers' bottom 6 was really good and really competitive, right?
Yep.
I think this was an eye-opening game for a lot of people outside the market, just to get grasp that the Oilers actually do have depth this year. And to watch, I can't remember who it was on the Kings, elbow Foegele in the face. He falls over. I thought that was an interference penalty. I thought it could have been elbowing penalty, whatever. If you don't call that, that's fine. But 5 seconds later, you have Blake Lizotte interfering, doing whatever. I don't even know what that was with Desharnais. Desharnais falls over and he steps on his stick. And obviously they called that on the Oilers in overtime. And you just could feel the goal coming. You just knew that it was coming. But after what Skinner let in, I was really nervous watching the shots that LA took, and we knew they were going to generate some chances. The Oilers' penalty kill was phenomenal early on. Matthias Janmark with the blocks, Nick Bukestad with the constant face-off wins, McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent-Hopkins, it didn't matter. Everyone was putting in the work. Nurse was getting his stick in lane. Ekholm was phenomenal with the clears. The Oilers were the better team. I just think they weren't able to solve Korpisalo, and the Kings got a few more lucky breaks, as bad as that is to say. But that's what I think.
I think you could say lucky breaks, or they just capitalized. Like, this is a problem, and this is, I hate to, like, I'm not going to infiltrate this show with Calgary, but I can draw from Calgary's season because it was so fucking bad. But like a lot of times when Calgary would have a good game, they'd show stretches of 10 minutes of just nonstop pressure. Then they let their foot off the gas for, a couple minutes. They'd send the Lucic line out or whatever, and they'd just coast. And that's when teams would pounce, and that's when they make their strike. And I think that's kind of how LA kind of found their offense tonight, was they just waited for that one time to pounce. Because you're right, the Oilers were the better team through 60, 70, whatever, 72 minutes or whatever the hell it ended up being. They were the better team, but there were moments in this game where LA looked like the better team, and that's when they scored those goals, and that's when they generated their chances, and they'd have a bit of a sustained offensive zone time, a little bit of pressure, but it wasn't for long stretches. It was just those little moments where they would, and I don't even think it was just Edmonton letting their foot off the brake. I don't know what you chalk it up to, but they pounced on it.
Edmonton Oilers hockey right there. And one thing I do want to say before I forget, there's 117 people watching live right now. We only got 17 likes, so we're gonna make the like goal 97 in honor of Connor McDavid, because of course I really have no other better number to pick.
If I may quickly before we go on too, with that many people in here, Rob's been plugging behind the scenes on SDPN from the account. But throughout the whole playoffs, we're raising money for Alphabet Sports Collective. Alphabet Sports Collective creates a safe and inclusive environment in hockey for folks of all sexual identities and gender expressions through education, community building, and mobilization. You can donate at alphabetsportscollective.com/donate. Rob's going to be plastering the link in the chat, so be sure if you do want to donate. We're going to be trying to keep that initiative rolling. So the longer the Oilers stay in the playoffs, the more we can donate to them. So let's hope for that. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to make sure we plugged that in there as well.
No, absolutely. I appreciate it. I mean, my mind is so
it's all
shattered
good, dude.
right now that like I cannot have two straight like concurrent thoughts. Like usually me and Dennis can roll through the game, one goal, one player right after the other, bing, bang, boom, whatever. But man, you're just this place. You're starting from the end. You're kind of working your way backwards. You talk a little bit at the beginning. You talk about the middle. I'm glad you threw in the Alphabet Sports Collective because that obviously is super important. But man, it's such a frustrating game. And there's two ways that this thing can go. Like man, it's just so freaking frustrating. Like Edmonton was doing everything they could. They were beating LA at their own game. They just let up, and there were goals like the second goal that LA scored. I believe the second Kempe goal, for example. That is a play that did not happen in the last 42 games of the season. No. Connor McDavid skating down the ice, has Leon Draisaitl off to his side. And obviously, in years past, always pass to Draisaitl. If he makes the pass, it's a good goal. This year, McDavid, 64 goals. He takes that shot every single day of the week. I don't know what happened to him to make him make the pass, but he makes the pass. It was a horrible turnover.
He was watching too many Huberdeau highlights.
Exactly. And I've literally, you can watch back every single game over Edmonton. I do not criticize Connor McDavid. We don't speak bad of 97. We don't speak bad of 29. He can on his own net. It doesn't matter. But that play in that situation at that point in the game, you just have to take the shot. If you score a goal there, it's over. It's lights out for the Kings, right? The Oilers let them back in the game. They do this thing, and this was a theme early on in the season. It was something.
Oh, we lost. Oh, there we're good. We're good. We lost our audio for a second. You're good though. Sorry. You're good.
Okay, cool. It was something. There was a theme early on in the Oilers season that when they would get a 2-goal lead or even a 1-goal lead or sometimes even a 3-goal lead, instead of continuing to push, they would try and play this defensive hockey that like all the boomers say you need to be able to play to win, right? That lockdown, physical, hard-nosed.
Daryl Sutter hockey.
Oh, exactly,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Milan Lucic style hockey. Bang, crash, straight lines. That's what they were doing. And in that, the Oilers lost so many games early on in the year when they tried to play that lockdown after playing this fast, high-tempo hockey early on. I remember early on there was a game at Dallas that they ended up losing because of that. They blew a lead really late to New Jersey, another fast-skilled team early on in the season. And then they kind of cleaned it up. And we thought at the end of the year, okay, they've learned. They can lock it down, whatever. And then in this game, you saw a shift back to that old Oilers thing where in the third period, all of a sudden it was dump. It wasn't just dump, chase, retrieve, and keep the pressure on. It was dump and fall back almost as if they were dropping back to a 1-3-1 to try and stop LA's attack, when that is not how you should be playing the LA Kings. They just fundamentally approached the game wrong in the third period. It wasn't what we're used to seeing from the Edmonton Oilers. I don't want to say, like last year, I remember the excuse when they lost game 1 was they were caught off guard by the energy of the crowd. And, we didn't really know how good the Kings were, but that's not the case. This year, we know how good the Kings were. They've gone through that playoff run with that building rocking. They knew exactly what to expect. They were up. They had themselves in a great position, and they lost it, right?
Bro, they were playing Burn It to the Ground by Nickelback before they came out. Like, how the fuck do you not run through a brick wall when that song comes on before here? Exactly. You want to talk about getting hyped up and knowing the energy? Yeah, they the majority of this group has been there before. This ain't nothing new. It's as far as I'm concerned, I'm not trying to take shots or nothing, but like, it's a lame excuse if that's what you're gonna roll with tonight. Look, the energy was great, and that's something you usually build off. It's not something you usually use as an excuse the other way. And it's, I get it, though. I get it because
I remember the Yamamoto quote where he said, he's like, he was so jacked up. He came out and took a really stupid penalty early on. And that's kind of was the fault. But that was last year. This year, I'm like, okay, they're experienced. They have the Colorado, they have that Colorado thing. And I'm not someone who likes to lean on those cliches of playoff experience and all that different stuff that you can't really quantify. Right. But that's where I think all of the confidence in Edmonton came into this playoff series. It came from that experience, because watching the McDavid and Draisaitl in the last 5 games, you could feel that there was another level, and you could sense that that there was just a different aura around the team, right? And the way they were carrying themselves, the way they were conducting themselves was like nothing that I have ever seen. And I've watched every single game Draisaitl's ever played, and I've watched every single game McDavid's ever played. This is by far the most confident they have seen, right? So it's a really, really big reality check, I think, coming into this game and having what happened to you at the way it did, right? You think you won in overtime. You had a 2-goal lead with 8 minutes left. There were so many things you could have done, right? It just shows that they need to work harder. This LA team, like you said at the beginning, they linger, they stick around. They're so pesky. They're all just rats, right? Every single one of them. We respect Kopitar. He, whatever. He's been around. He's won. But Kempe, guy's a rat. Tyler Remchuk on Oilers Nation Radio or whatever put it the best way. He's like, Blake Lazar, rat. Kempe, rat. Deneau, rat. Iafallo, rat. They're just such a dislikable, scrawny team that you just want to punch every single one of them in the face, right? And it just drives me fucking nuts. Like, Deneau's beard is, oh my God, like, shave that beard, my guy. You look like I don't want to say it because it's bad, but I'm not gonna make fun of someone's appearance, but
That's okay. You know what? You're firing on all cylinders. This is your therapist speaking. I understand how you're feeling. I've been there, because last season, and again, I'm not making it about Calgary.
No, you can.
But last season, Peter and I, we got to do 3 games before the playoffs started, and then it was boom. Here we are. We got the Dallas series that went to 7. We had the Oilers, and you guys made quick work of us. It was emotional, man. The doing Game Over. I'm kind of glad that the Flames are out, because I don't have to. Like I said, I have no horse in the race. I don't have to go through the emotional trauma. The season was bad enough, but jumping right into playoffs as your first experience doing Game Over on this network, it's intense. Like, your view, there's way more eyes on it. First of all, it's way more. You're way more passionate. Everybody else is way more passionate. So I get what you're feeling. A lot of people. Jay Money's here. He was in all of our streams last year too. He knows exactly how it is. But just, you know what? All I can say as an outside person looking in is this team is way better, or not way better. This team is too good to let this kind of loss dictate the rest of their playoffs. And if anything, and again, I don't watch I don't watch as many Oilers games as I would like to. If anything, I think this is just going to be like a watch out for them for the rest of the series. Like, getting that kind of loss on home ice to start the playoffs, they're not letting that happen again. 97. We talk about that pass to Draisaitl where it got broken up on that 2-on-1. He should have shot that one. He knows he should have shot that puck. What's he going to do? How's he going to answer it next game? I'd be fucking scared shitless with this guy on the ice.
I don't have these numbers in front of me, but off the top of my head, Connor McDavid scored 0 points this season, I think only 7 times. There were only 7 games this year where he is held pointless. He had 3 points in, I believe, 19 games or something ridiculous like that, right? Almost double. And again, I might be mixing up that stat, but I believe that's exactly how it is, right? He had no points tonight. The Kings, McDavid was brilliant. We saw the couple rushes from him early on where he broke through every Kings defender. The only person who got smacked was Drew Doughty by him early on, right? McDavid was bringing all the pressure, but he couldn't beat Jonas Korpisalo. There was a chance late in the third, right, where if McDavid just had a couple more inches, he would have been able to elevate the puck over Korpisalo's pad, similar to how he scored his 60th goal in Arizona in overtime, right? There were such little plays where McDavid was held off the score sheet. McDavid always is I know he drew 2 calls tonight. He could draw 5 calls every single game. The amount of holding and hooking and prodding that he gets is absolutely insane. So that's another reason why, Oilers fans are going to be unhappy when you look at the 6 power plays for LA where you have Iafallo and Kempe and all these, third line bums drawing calls, and Connor McDavid has to slug through 17 pounds of horse shit in order to get to the net. So that part's a little frustrating, obviously. But then this is also the thing. You have McDavid out as your number 1 center, and you have playoff Leon Draisaitl as your second line center. And everyone likes to call him power play merchant. He scored 2 goals, 5-on-5 today. He might be the best player in the NHL. Like, honest to God, he is so dominant. He's so disgusting. When they're both going and when they're both converting, no team has an answer for that. No team. Again, I think the Oilers lost and it sucks. But again, I think they beat themselves more than the Kings beat them. I think Stu is capable of being better. I don't think the bottom 6 are really capable of being better, but I think they're a better finishing team than they showed tonight. They definitely had chances. I think the guys who you can look to have a rebound game is someone like Zach Hyman. Zach Hyman had multiple chances where he kind of gets it to the net. He gets it in a position where he can either pass off or take the shot, and he just kind of held on to it for a second too long, right? Evander Kane, he always struggles with passing. That's kind of one of his weaknesses, but the thing about Evander Kane is he took 2 really, really weak penalties in this game. Like, they were penalties. They were fully avoidable penalties. There were way too many stick infractions, right? I think the Oilers came out so hard. They didn't pace themselves. They didn't do anything to keep that energy level up as the game wore on. And you saw in that third period with about 17 minutes left in the game, because Edmonton came out hard at the beginning of the third. Bouchard had a really good chance, but then LA just started slowly taking it to them and slowly working back into their game, and that's where you saw the Oilers start to crumble, right? And I had so many things I wanted to ask you before when I thought the Oilers were going to win, but they just don't make any sense. One thing that I did want to ask you, and I think it still is relevant, and I know he took that penalty late, and this is another penalty where I'll go to my question in a second, where I think Oilers fans are going to have a lot of issues with, because personally, I think it was a really, really weak call. Actually, 2 calls I can point to that were really weak besides the overtime one, not including that one. First one, in the first period, Zach Hyman slashing on Quentin Byfield while the Oilers are dominating an ozone shift. Hold on to your stick. Like, that is not an NHL penalty in the playoffs. If you're calling that, call everything like that. The other one that I think is ridiculous, like 2 minutes left in the game, I know he snapped his head back, but Evan Bouchard hit him in the shoulder. If you say he hit him in the head, I think you're nuts. I do not think he made contact with any sort of skin on, I think it was Iafallo, but I can't remember.
Jeez, I can't remember. Whoever was it Grunstrom?
Might have been Grunstrom.
Tinted visor. Who's got the tinted visor?
Honestly,
I can't remember.
I focus so hard on all the Oilers. Sometimes I miss stuff that happens with the other team, right? You microanalyze them. So I think that one was tough. But my question is, did you, as a Flames fan, or as an outsider, I should say, realize how good Evan Bouchard is?
Oh, dude. Yes. Yeah, I'll tell you a little story. So last night I did a playoff fantasy draft with some guys from work, and he was high up on my draft board. So if you haven't seen my bracket, I have an Oilers Bruins Cup final. So does everybody else on Twitter. And I didn't realize that till after I posted my bracket that everybody else thinks the same thing, which means it's not going to happen. I'm sorry, Oilers fans, but it's just not going to happen. But anyways, so obviously I'm trying to pick a lot of Oilers and try to pick a lot of Bruins, because if they go deep, you get more points. Don't have to explain that. But I was really high on Evan Bouchard, and I was going to take him, and the freaking guy before me sniped him, and I was pissed. And I'm like, he's gonna have a whale of a playoff. That goal he scored tonight, that was a freaking CNI shot that he scored. He is going to be a stud. Like, he is. This is only scratching the surface of what I think Evan Bouchard, and not just me. I know a lot of people are high on him too, and have been high on him since coming out of junior.
he reminds me a lot of Dougie Hamilton. That's who he
Yeah,
reminds me a lot of.
he kind of does. Yeah, I can see that. Maybe with a little bit more personality than Museum Boy. But yeah, no, I'm very, very impressed with the steps he's taken this year. And look, man, like he's poised to have a good playoffs. He's shown at this game. Defensively, he's good. He gets his stick in lanes and breaks plays up like it's nothing. It's just so effortless. And to put the icing on the cake, he's got a cannon of a shot. Like and he's got a good shot. Like there's a difference between a defenseman who has a good shot but like doesn't hit the net. Like he does both, right? Like he's got an absolute howitzer. And he puts it on net. There's like I hate to pick on Rasmus Anderson. I love the guy. He's getting better at it, but he's got a freaking cannon of a shot, but he hits the net 1 in 5 times, right?
Yeah.
Bouchard's going to go 3 or 4 for 5, 5 for 5. Like he finds his targets and he hits them.
Well, Bouchard's thing is nailing him off the crossbar. Like, I don't know a defenseman that hits more posts than
he hit one today.
Exactly. Every time. And you saw his goal off the post. And he has the most, I think he might have the best shot on the Oilers. He has the most accurate shot. It's so hard and it's so good. You saw him win the game in overtime in the regular season against Colorado on that very similar move to the goal he scored tonight, right?
Yeah,
man, he probably had one of his best games of his career, and then just later on with those penalties, like, oh man, they're so avoidable, and it's gonna make a lot of people sour on the game that he had tonight because I thought he was outstanding. I thought he was one of his best players, but yeah, it's something that can happen. I know I see a lot of people in the chat talking about how are the Oilers going to rebound? How are the Oilers going to rebound? And
easy. I have no worries. I like I know you guys will because you know what just happened now, and I was the same way when it was Calgary, man. Like I know how this gig gets when it comes down to this time of the year. I know Oilers Nation is going to be on pins and needles, and how are they gonna bounce back? As an outsider looking in, man, I'm telling you right now, I am 0% worried, and okay. I'm gonna either get friggin' blasted for having this because it's gonna go the other way, or it's gonna go the way I say it. And I firmly believe that I think it's gonna be a thwomping on in game 2 because I just don't think this team is content with how this transpired. And they want to make sure that not only do they split this on home ice, but they split it with authority and head to LA after after a good little ass whooping there. So
yeah,
I'm confident that they can do it. We'll see. It's still yet to be seen. But after what we saw tonight, I would be surprised if it went any other way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely something I'm looking forward to. It's so easy to live and die with every single loss in the playoffs. I mean, I do it in December. So I was so confident in the third, and then when overtime was starting, I could just feel my heart beating, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, I just want this to be over. I just need a team to end it early. Like, I can't take that stress for so long because, man, it's nuts. And then you have to go to sleep afterwards, and there's just no way you can go to
adrenaline,
sleep.
Dude. Oh yeah, no, you're not.
It is just the worst. So yeah, it's gonna be big. It's got like 97's got to come out, and again, the Oilers live and die with 97. Like, yeah, Draisaitl can play fantastic. The rest of the guys can play fantastic. And again, bottom 6 is great. Defense was all right. It was really good early on. Like, you saw backtracks from Fogle. You saw everyone committing. When Draisaitl's back checking, you know it's a serious game because he does not forecheck, does not back check, and so, yeah, you just know. So, again, it's going to be really interesting to see. I'm so nervous for game 2. I can't imagine how everyone else in the chat feels. Like, can't imagine how all the Kings fans feel right now because they must just be elated, especially because everyone seemingly picked them to lose the series, which I was not a fan of. When Sid Seixeiro tweeted the Oilers are going to win the Stanley Cup, I wanted to run my head through a wall. Exactly. That was the kiss of death.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you for coming on again, helping me out when
course.
Dennis isn't here. Obviously, I want to just apologize. I saw all the regulars in chat, and I saw so many new faces that I haven't seen before. Usually, I'm much more interactive with the chat, but it was really
It's a
hard
tough one.
tonight. I'm sure you guys can understand. One more time, you guys want to hit that like button. There's 127 of you watching right now. I hope you get every single one of you is back for game 2. I hope there's a better result, and I hope we can all celebrate here on Wednesday. One thing we also got to remember to plug is the Alphabet Sports Collective. Obviously a great cause, and hopefully I think there's a link down in the description below. So if you guys do want to go donate,
not Rob, but SDPN. Sorry, I got corrected in chat by admin.
Yes,
not Rob. It's just SDPN. But whoever's running SDPN tonight,
yeah,
not Rob, who's
Rob.
also running our stream.
Yeah, man. Oh man, that was a rough way to go. But I don't have any faith. The Oilers lost game 1 against Calgary, and they came back and ran off 4 in a row. So here's hoping they can do it again. But in the meantime, the Oilers lose 4-3 in overtime in game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs to the Los Angeles Kings. And actually, last thing, it was really funny because on Twitter early on when the Kings were like 0-for-5 on the power play, all the Kings fans, I can't believe Iafalo's on the power play. I can't believe it. Fireable offense, Iafalo on the power play. Iafalo with the game winner on the power play in overtime, as it was
poetic.
Exactly,
so poetic.
As it had to be. But I think that'll be all from us. It's a late night, so yeah. Any last words from you, Bert?
No. Thanks for having me. This is great.
Yeah.
It's nice to be on the other side of this for once and not have to talk about how painful the Flames were this year. But yeah, man, I truly hope that they can figure this out, because the NHL is a much more fun place when 97's playing as much as he can. So hopefully that continues for you guys, and you, Dennis and Avery, have a good little run here into the playoffs. Should be fun.
I hope so too, Auddie. You couldn't have said it better myself. So thank you very much.
Of course, brother,
on.
No problem.
So yeah, that'll be all from us. Again, the Oilers lose, and take care. Have as good of a night as you can. Hope everyone mixed in a water. I hope everyone recoups tomorrow and has a good a sleep as you can. Take care. Take care, everyone.
Game over! Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.